Hello folks, you're on the Desert Adventures YouTube channel, sponsored by Apogee Performance Racing. Get more horsepower to the ground by reducing drag with Apogee Performance Chain Lube, the best chain lube on the market and longest lasting. Go check them out at apogeeperformanceracing.com. So today we're out for a ride on the old 96 XR600. The weather's finally cooled off up here in northern Arizona, so only looking at a high of 50 degrees. We're actually wearing a jacket, so sunshine and some cool air. It'll be a nice day out. We'll do some nice wash riding here down in the washes, and hopefully end up on top of the ridge line. Get some good scenery. Maybe we'll look down and see the lake down below us, and we'll see some of the Grand Wash Cliffs as well by the end of the video. And before I left, I was looking at this area on the map, and I noticed there's a mine on that mountain to my right. So I want to go turn up this hillside road and maybe go check out that mine, see what it's all about. Maybe there's a drift we can go inside, or maybe it's gated off, who knows? Let's go check it out before we get into the main subject matter of the video. Out here in the desert southwest, sometimes these mining roads that lead up the side of mountains are some of the funnest terrain you can get to ride, and especially if they're less traveled than this one. This one's still fun, but yeah. Mining roads, they're always a good source of challenging rocky terrain to ride. That being said, don't go to hauling ass on unknown mining roads. Hauling ass where you've never been isn't smart, and it's a good way to accidentally jump into a mining shaft. Kind of like I almost did here one time. Woo! So yeah, don't haul ass where you've never been, so you don't drive into a mine shaft. And it looks like this mine is gated off, so nothing to see here. We'll get heading back down the hill. Alright, so now that we've gone and seen the mine I was curious about, let's get into the main subject of the video here. Why air-cooled 4-stroke dirt bikes are better than your newer 2-stroke or water-cooled 4-stroke bikes. 5 reasons. Let's get right off the bat here. Reason number 1. Upfront cost. You can go pick yourself up a Suzuki DR or Suzuki DRZ if you're into littler bikes, or Honda XRs, or there's a number of other Yamaha TTRs. There's a number of plenty of air-cooled 4-stroke bikes that are great bikes, and you can get them for less than a couple $1,000s, and you've got yourself a nice off-road bike. You know, we're not talking anything brand new, but we're talking about something that you can go out and trail ride, have a good time on. So low upfront cost is reason number 1. Reason number 2 is all of these older style air-cooled 4-stroke bikes are tough as hell. They're just tough as nails. They're hard to break. Let's start off with one thing, them being air-cooled. There's no radiators to pop a hole in. No radiator lines to rot and start leaking coolant all over the place, which is huge. So you're not going to get stranded because your bike lost all its coolant because you fell over doing walking speed, which can downright piss you off if you're out in the middle of nowhere, and that's, best case scenario, it pisses you off. Or an even worse situation, more than just pisses you off and you're able to get a phone call out. What if you're somewhere super remote, like where I ride, and you can't get a phone call out? So now you're straight up stranded, and you've got to walk for a long time to get out. In some places, that's not possible because the weather, might be too hot that time of year or something. So, yeah, you could end up getting real hosed due to a leaky radiator. So you're not going to pop a hole in the radiator, and they're just tough. Reason number 3, and this kind of goes hand in hand with them being tough, is they've got steel frames on all of these older style bikes. So a steel frame, if you ever bash that frame into a rock, or it ends up cracking or breaking, if you don't know how to weld yourself, you can take it somewhere to get welded, and it's just easier to find someone to weld it and easier to weld yourself with being a steel frame rather than aluminum. A lot of the time you try and re-weld aluminum, the welds don't come. So steel frames, they're repairable. Preferred for the average trail rider, and a lot of riders won't ever be able to tell the difference, but they do comply and bend a little bit, flex a little bit more than aluminum frames, which can make the bike feel different and softer, more compliant. So you guys like the way a steel frame feels better if you are a good enough rider to notice. And speaking of the bike being compliant, brings us to reason number 4, which is going to be trail suspension over moto suspension. A lot of riders are not out there riding on the motocross track, banging out laps, hitting doubles and tabletops, and coming up short on triples, and needing that type of stiff motocross suspension or even stiffer supercross suspension. Most riders don't need that, and in fact, that type of suspension makes the bike ride worse and get less traction in off-road environments, like where I'm riding and where a lot of people are riding out on public lands and off-road, off-highway vehicle areas. So trail suspension, these air-cooled 4-stroke bikes, you know, they've got just softer, more compliant suspension, and it's going to make for a more comfortable and really a better handling for most off-road situations suspension than full-on race motocross suspension. You know, the type of stiff suspension that you're going to find on all of the newer modern race bikes. That suspension's great if it's catching you from a big 60 or 75 foot double. Great when you're riding in rocky off-road conditions and natural terrain, trying to keep as much traction as possible. Now, that's not to say that there's not plenty of water-cooled modern off-road bikes that do have perfectly great suspension. However, in general, especially when it comes to bang for buck, if you're going to go buy an old clapped out motocross bike or go buy an air-cooled 4-stroke dirt bike, you're probably going to end up with better suspension for off-road riding if you just buy an off-road bike. And before I said that disclaimer, I could feel all of the European hard enduro bike riders getting ready to fry me in the comments. So don't worry, you guys are there. I acknowledge your suspension is probably much better than the old air-cooled 4-stroke bikes, but you know, in general, bang for buck, you can't beat it. And everyone loves bang for buck. And another bang for buck, reason number 5 here that they're better, is less maintenance and longer service intervals. Basically the same thing. So let's say you've got a KTM 450 EXC. The factory recommends you do a valve adjustment every 30 hours. On the XR, they don't mention hours, but they recommend around 4,000 miles. And at trail pace, you're looking at 100 to 130 hours before I need to adjust the valves. Also, when I adjust the valves on the XRs or any of the other air-cooled bikes, you don't need any special tools besides feeler gauge to measure tolerance. You don't need any bucket kits, shim and bucket kits for specific size shims or anything specific like that. It's much easier to adjust the valves. Piston replacement on a 450 EXC, you're looking at every 100 hours you're going to need a new top end. Well, if you're needing a new top end every 100 hours, that adds up. 100 hours is pretty quick. On the XRs, you know, you're looking at a new piston every 10,000 to 20,000 miles. Well, that's 300 to 650 hours worth of riding. That's a lot more time you're spending riding rather than working on the machine. And it's, once again, easier to work on the XR than it is any of the KTMs that you're going to need specialized tools to work on. And that's not just the KTMs. That goes for really any of the new modern water-cooled 4-strokes. Most of them are pretty high-strung, high-maintenance machines that are, their engines started off as motocross race machines, and then they detune them for off-road. So they still end up needing replacement parts and maintenance intervals way more often. Look at that view. And there is 5 reasons why I think that air-cooled 4-stroke dirt bikes are the best thing for someone that is going to be off-roading and just overall trying to ride more, pay less to ride, and work on their bike less. They may not be the fastest bikes, they may not be the lightest bikes, and you might still have to kick them to get them started. But when it comes down to the amount of fun had per dollar spent, in my opinion, air-cooled 4-stroke dirt bikes are the best. So go find yourself one. Go check out Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, and go get yourself a bike that you could just beat on and keep on riding. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that damn notification bell if you feel like getting told next time I got a video dropping. And enjoy the last few minutes of this video's scenic ride footage without me running my mouth. We'll see you next time on the Desert Adventures YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.